here in the Zoom room. So please feel free to stick around and hang out and chat. So the second announcement ties in with that one. You just saw it should have arrived in your email inboxes just minutes ago. So if you haven't checked your email, you should see it there now. We have our IPSO officers for this year. The election has been held, and now we know who all our officers are. So be sure to check your email and see them. We should be having our first meeting soon. So hopefully in the near future, we will start having planned events for some of the hangouts afterward. So yeah, look forward to those. But until then, just come and hang out and chat today, and hope to see you there.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Maku. Are there other announcements that anyone has before we get started?
Jason, can I just remind everybody about the email I sent this morning?
Yes.
So you should have all received an email this morning about some in-person gatherings next week. There's a Google Doc where you can go in and sign up. We need you to RSVP. So these are either lunch or dinner with the faculty. We can have up to 15 people there all together. So I'm going to put the link in the chat here too, but go in, sign up. They're going to be held off campus, probably at parks, so that we can be outside and distanced. So, but where you guys will meet will come after we have everybody signed up.
Okay. Thank you, Heather. Karen, do you have a question?
There's an email that I've been getting, and it's the last reminder from the IP&T secretaries about filling out the self-evaluation. Is that required of everyone, including those that are just beginning this master's program?
Yes, so that's something that every student, even if you're new, needs to fill out. There may not be a lot. You can't mark a lot of progress, we know. But we do want to check in on you and make sure that everything's going well and that you're off to the right start. So yes, all students, including new students, please fill that evaluation out using the instructions that Jesse and the secretaries have sent. Thank you for the chance to clarify, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's turn the time over to our presenter, Dr. Tiffany Ivins Spence. She's got a lot of exciting things to share with us. About some projects she's been working on. We're so grateful that she's able to join us today and spend some time with us. Let's welcome her to the IP&T department. And Tiffany, I'll turn the time over to you and you can share however you'd like to share.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. This is my most recent home at BYU is the IP&T department. And I have a couple of friends who are joining us. Drew Bayless, who's in my corner on the left. I don't know if you can see him, but he's a computer science major that we're converting to become an IP&T student. And we have Heather Phipps, and I can't see her yet, but she will probably join us. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen, if that works for you. Let me come down here real fast. Okay, do I have permissions to share? Let's see if it's coming up.
You should.
Okay. Oh man, let's see.
So do you see the green share button, Tiffany, at the bottom?
Yeah, I'm doing that. Sorry. And I was trying it out last night and everything's working. I'm going to I think I'm going to log in through my laptop instead to make sure. Oh man, hang on one sec. This is the worst part of being an IP&T student. Just one sec. I don't know. It's saying that I have to have some kind of permission.
It's set up for every participant. I can try making you a co-host and see if that helps.
Okay.
Let's do that. And see if that gives you the permissions you need.
To share my screen.
You gotta create a different screen. Where's your screen you're trying to share?
Right here.
Okay, pull it off of there. Okay, now share it.
Where?
Now go back to the Zoom meeting and share your screen. Just look for what it's called.
It's not there. For some reason, it's not allowing it. Open system preferences. Okay, it says I have to have someone open system preferences. Is that something that needs to happen on your side or on my side?
Well, that's on your side.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, just one sec. Oh, man.
Hold on. Say it later. Say it later.
Sorry, you guys. What a waste. Okay, no. I better do it. I maybe I'll just log in through my laptop to make sure that I can not waste your time.
I'm good at share settings. Are you good then?
Here, just one sec. Let me just make sure it gets on. Can you download
I
that?
just do it through your laptop, and then you can see the meeting through your laptop.
Oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing.
Just join. Just rejoin it.
Tiffany, we've all had moments like this, so don't stress it.
Okay, can you see me?
Welcome back.
Okay, now I am going to share my screen. Let's see.
I'll just make sure. Pull it just before you do that. Cancel that. Cancel that. Just put the red dot up there. Just grab your thing and just pull it off of it.
Okay, we're now.
Grab this and just pull it off so it's independent. Okay, now share it.
Okay.
Here we are.
There you go.
Share.
Okay. You got it? Now I'm going to go to the tippy top.
Present. Just
Oh,
present.
shoot. Okay, this is what happens when you get a little nervous. Oh, shoot. Here I am. Sorry, I'm going to blaze backwards. This is like the model of all the worst things you could ever do in IPT, just so you know. So, okay, my background, I am not a tech person, and it was very uncomfortable for me to join the IPT department. I am an international development person, and I learned through people on the ground in various countries in Asia and Africa that there's a lot of need for IPT. So I joined the department in 2000. What was it? I started my PhD in 2006, and I have now been consulting with the LDS Church on ways to expand access to literacy tools and to human rights education. And we're going to be sharing several things today. And if there's any rabbit hole that you would like to go down, then I am open to a phone call and we can discuss, because I would very much love to talk further with everybody. So in the wake of COVID, I'm sure you were talking a lot about the importance of ICT, information communication technologies, mobilizing youth, open educational resources, and localization. And we are making a presentation at 1 o'clock to church headquarters, to the Office of General Counsel, who are exploring opportunities to expand access to these tools in developing countries. And there is a ton of work to happen. So if anybody on this call is interested at all, please contact me, because we need to build a global network and there's so much work to be done. Okay, so, oh, dang it. Okay, yeah. So Cole Durham is an attorney in the law school at BYU, and he spoke at the human rights law conference that's been going on the last couple of days. And he said that Reverence is openness. That openness essentially means that we can revere the people we encounter as our equal. And that openness allows us to better create societies where human rights thrive. So we've been working with a branch of the church called the Geneva Office for Human Rights Education. They are based in Switzerland, and it's tethered to the Office of General Counsel and to the public affairs arm of the church. And they have created some content that they want to share globally. They have a mandate to teach 30 million in 2021, 30 million students in primary and secondary schools. And we're helping them to explore ways to deliver better in low bandwidth areas. And we have some students from the Ballard Center for Social Innovation, from the Kennedy Center for International Development. And we definitely would love to involve as many people from IPT as possible, because that's the background. Also, I had worked with interns through the IPT department back in 2010 and 2011 to build a tool called Open Content for Development that you see up in the corner. And we will tell you more about that. And it's essentially has its home at BYU originally. So it's exciting to see that grow. We are also partnered with the Literacy Working Group at the church. And this is a network of people at church headquarters, across departments, and many professors around the world, people who are LDS and also those who are not LDS. But in general, they are LDS professionals who are volunteering time to consult on how to better develop educational skills in developing countries. So we view this like a tree, and at the top, and you could flip it, you can see that the inverse of this, the roots are not more, sorry, the branches are not more important than the roots, and they are very well balanced. But from the sky view, we are collecting content from some really wonderful literacy tool providers. We are working with government as much as we can, with international non-government organizations. And then we channel that through this portal where the content is chunked and tagged and searchable, and it's opened, and that's tethered to training tools to build capacity for the different teachers and facilitators to engage with it and to tailor it for their needs. And then we also have some important grassroots partners, and those are the teachers on the ground. It's the NGO facilitators. It's working in places of faith, churches, mosques, synagogues, falches, that's a Hindu, Buddhist kind of gathering place. And then several NGOs who are helping us in disseminating knowledge. My background, I had been involved in literacy for development for about 26 years, I guess. I had served a mission in the Philippines, and this Lolita Calderon here in this picture was my first encounter of someone who had great faith and could not read and write. And I was very concerned for her after she got baptized, because there are gender and social dynamics that often keep women down and keep poor people down. And without the ability to read and write the Book of Mormon for herself, not write the Book of Mormon, but to read it or to engage with content and manuals on her own, I felt like she could be negatively impacted or just not as bolstered as possible. And that put me on the path to work with World Education in Boston, with Pro Literacy Worldwide in New York, and with USAID on several government contracts looking at ways to build capacity in poor countries. I was in Pakistan on a 5-year grant with USAID after Osama bin Laden was at large, and we knew that the terrorist bombings had happened in America due to mostly Pakistani terrorists. So it was an interesting time. There are a lot of hurdles we had to overcome, but many of the providers through education ministries and through NGOs would corner me at the end of a meeting and say, hey, we really need computers because when the money's gone, when USA leaves, then we need to sustain access. So please help us figure out how to get content online and to get computers into our community centers. And in a similar way, we found this even in the remotest parts of Sudan. And we found youth being very, very motivated to be leaders, but they needed access to content. In the process of these 26 years, I've seen a kind of shift where originally we focused on women and now it's very family oriented, intergenerational. An international agenda has been mostly trumped by national and local agendas. The slate and the pencils that we tried to get to villages is now mostly through computers and cell phones and solar panels and line of sight relay of internet. And then there's NGO led programs that are mostly or in a large way being replaced by youth-led, locally led programs. So we're gonna have Heather from our team talk and Drew talk. I guess we'll start with Drew, but they are helping us to start a West Africa study abroad through BYU that will be interdepartmental. And if any of you are interested to be part of this, we'll be sending a team to work with the Literacy Working Group and the Geneva Office of Human Rights this coming spring and summer. And we actually will also have a paid internship for someone with IP&T skills who can help us with the portal and with several decisions that need to be made about size of files and access in low bandwidth areas and things like that. We also have partners on the ground. Stefan Akoki is from Cote d'Ivoire, and he's amazing and very focused on getting access to business and entrepreneurial education in West Africa. And Richard Natsiko is helping us with training facilitators and building the capacity logistically to access information. We also have Jeff Lee, Dr. Chi Lee, and he and I worked in China, working with the government, doing teaching for teachers to build capacity. And he convinced me that tech was the way of the future. This is back in early 2000. And he linked me up with David Wiley, who was at BYU. Well, he was at Utah State at the time and then went to BYU. But we together started exploring open content for development. And another colleague of mine, Michael Gingold, he's from Israel, and he's working in very remote areas of India and Tibet and connecting the unconnected. He's the first group that was targeted by Facebook Express to do pilots and working closely with Microsoft to get rural connectivity into villages. And we also have Patras Dewan, who is the district president in Pakistan, but has his own nonprofit organization and sits on a council for minority rights in the Islamic dominated Pakistan. And all these people are coming together to help us figure out how can we build better a tool that could share knowledge. So I just want to reiterate that this is personal for me. It's personal for everyone on our team, and it's very personal for people on the ground. And we know that God has a customized curriculum for each of us. Neil Maxwell said that our life is tailored for learning, for trials and joys that are very particular for our progress. And in light of that, how can we create a culture of human dignity in a post-COVID world where many schools are closed, where families don't have access? How can we expand formal and non-formal opportunities? So the Geneva Office of Human Rights Education has developed 2 toolkits to target children and youth. And we are working through them and trying to change their mindsets that we need to embrace this phase 4 of the UN agenda, which is very youth focused. It is moving toward non-formal means of mobilizing civil society and institutions. It's very anchored in youth-led networks. And you might have heard this term about the youth paradox, where youth very much want to integrate. They want to have all the rites of passage to join society, but they also want to transform the order of society that they are joining. And this is laden with a lot of challenges, and we've seen that across the globe. It's local and it's international. We can talk more about that. And then the UN is calling it a youth quake, because we see youth increasingly change norms because of ICTs. So this, I'm not going to go into all this, but essentially the big thing is, what's the secret sauce that different content providers can offer? And in the LDS Church, we do have some particular networks and relationships that inform our framework. And another interesting fact is that in Asia and Africa, 80% of the members of the church are youth. And we do have a lot of programs for youth, but there's a gap between connecting youth with the tools that allow them to better access the content that they seek. So we're looking to better integrate resources. Real quickly, some of the UN themes, like I just stated, are youth-led, digital, openness, localization, and interdisciplinary. And interestingly, these dovetail with the themes of working with millennials. And I'm sure that this is true for many of you in this program. You know the importance of looking at things in new ways. And considering that there's almost 2 billion millennials in the world, with 80% of those millennials across Asia and Africa, there's a paradigm shift, a major tsunami that's going to hit. This is a video we would like to show. It's a 2-minute video that gives you a quick overview of what we did through the IPT department back in 2010. And then we'll have Drew and Heather talk to you about some of the pillars of our work.
Namaste, my name is Ramita Shrestha. I'm from Saku village in Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm the community mobilizer of Saku Rural Information Technology Center. I would like to share something about our village Saku and our works. Namaste, ma Sunila Shrestha, Grand Srila ग्रामीण सूचना केन्द्र मार्फत अरु पनि केही सिक्ने भन्ने चाहिँ हामी तपाईबाट धेरै आशा लिएको छ। यहाँ आएर मैले चाहिँ कम्प्युटर सिक्न पाएँ अनि मैले त्यो कम्प्युटरबाट चाहिँ मैले आफ्नो चाहिँ व्यवसायको चाहिँ कम्प्युटरमा जुन हिसाब गर्न सके। ट्रेनिङ सेन्टर त्यो मात्र सायद हैन, हाम्रो एउटा अहिले ट्यालेन्ट सो गर्ने ठाउँ जस्तो प्लेटफर्म बनेको छ। We invite you to join us in this movement. Namaste.
Okay, so now go back to this. Can you see my screen? Hopefully.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now you can see we're at this crossroads trying to define what is our minimum viable product. Together with the Ballard Center and many business professionals, we're trying to figure out what is the most basic product that we can offer that is sufficient enough for this pilot project that we're doing in West Africa, and that we could get feedback from the people on the ground as they engage with our product. We've identified 3 basic pillars that we're focused on. One being the content, second being the access points, and third being the facilitators and capacity building. And I will pass the torch to Drew.
Great, thank you, Tiffany. So, as Tiffany said, I'm the intern that's working and with her, one of the interns, and I've been in charge of the content side of this project. And what that entails is a website, a portal that utilizes open educational resources that the UN and other organizations are really seeing as beneficial, especially in this post-COVID world. And this, brings critical content to users who need them, very relevant, and it's also very digestible. And with, like, as it says, chunked data, meaning that it's accessible by people even in lower literate areas or lower connectivity areas where it's harder to connect, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And it's very personalizable. And the beautiful thing about this as well is that it allows for, you can go back to the next one, co-creation. And in effect, that is shortening the feedback loops. Tiffany, you can go the next slide. Thank you. So what we see with typical dissemination of content from, like, as you see on the left, waterfall, where it starts from the top and it gets vetted and it has to go through committees before it's finally realized and put into action. What this vision is with this project and with this portal is to have more agile development, where you're always constantly reevaluating, but you're still using the content. You start off, as Tiffany said, with the minimum viable product, but you're continually growing, you're continually revising it while putting it into effect. A cool way to think about this is how with waterfall development, your scope, your end vision is set, right? If you think about big organizations or other examples, but to get to that final scope, you will go at whatever schedule and whatever cost that you need to get there. Whereas this flips that upside down with the triangle on the left side, where we're going into it with a set schedule or a set cost, which may not be that much, which is another essence of it, but we are able to use that to focus, continue to get feedback, and do what we can to push and get the use co-creation to get the resources back to where they need to be as well. Which, and as you see on the right, it's obviously more effective. And so that's what we're going at with this portal. You can go to the next slide. And to do that is with open educational resources, which I've been learning so much about with Tiffany. I'm still in my undergrad, and I learned a lot through the IP&T and the ICT departments as well, which is great. But essentially with David Wiley, Dr. Wiley, he's a big advocate for open educational resources. And there's what is known as the 5 R's with these resources: to be retained, to be reused, revised, remixed, and redistributed. And so with this project, what is new, what is different is that what has been done before with open educational resources, the Creative Commons through MIT, they have established and they put all the MIT curriculum out there for everybody to use. But it's MIT curriculum, right? And it's very high education. It requires high levels of connectivity and literacy to be able to digest it and to go through it. And so we are targeting audiences that are lower literates, that may have struggles getting into even access. They don't know where to access this materials. And in the post-COVID world, the need is ever so present for digital learning and education, and it's being pushed throughout the world. And so that's what we are really targeting with this project, especially. Go to the next slide. So, and as we mentioned, the UN, they are full supporting of this, and so it's very timely as well with movements that are going on in the greater world. So with this portal, It's
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this second YouTube live stream that we're doing from the Axelos headquarters, which is currently located in what used to be my daughter's bedroom. We have a fabulous panel with us today.
Sorry, Drew, keep going.
No problem, no problem. So what this looks like in effect, we have some screenshots here that give the essence of it. The website is still under development, and there's so much to be decided to make sure that it's as we expand and such, to make sure that it is set right. You know, it's good to have a good foundation, especially with building a big project like this that will be, you know, utilized, you know, ideally for as long as we possibly can. So the idea is making it tailored, right? People are able to go in and get personalized content, find resources, find whatever topic they want. Data is there. It's tagged. They can go in and search and find courses on self-reliance, courses on literacy, courses on human rights, you know, things like that. And they're able to go in and find it in their localized region, which is also another aspect of open educational resources. People are able to revise them, make them in their own, add translations, add what works in their region, given their culture. As Tiffany mentioned, frankly, you know, people from America, westernized world, will not understand some Islamic or other, you know, religious context in certain countries and such. And so to answer the question in the chat, so the content right now, we are partnering with a few organizations, and I think this will also be answered later, but it's in English and it's also in French. So we're working with the literacy working group of the church. And so we kind of were pushing for Francophone West Africa to start. But we're able to, if we use it in plain text, which is what we're trying to go for in the portal, we can use softwares such as, you know, Google APIs, Google Translate, in essence, is getting really effective at translating to very many dialects. It's not perfect always, but that's, you know, beautiful part of localization and involvement using co-creation to make that accurate. So that's also very possible in this post-COVID world. So now we'll show you some slides about the essence of the portal. So here's the old iteration, where the new one, you can check it out. It's the same website as you see there, but it's the same essence, and it's still being developed. And so this is it. You see these different topics here, different courses that people can go. Now you're able to go and search, you know, different topics and things. And so let's say you click on one. Say you click on how to start and grow your own business. Then this is what you're presented with. You're presented with PDF files, which are ideal. They're, you know, chunked. If you go out by units, you know, smaller PDF files, they're easy to access in lower literate areas. And then there's also Microsoft Word, which allows them to make edits, to revise them if they desire, which is another beautiful side to it. And then here's an example of a translation to local dialects, to Nepali, but that's the gist of it, right? Making it so it's easy to digest, it's all there, minimal clicks, minimal data usage to access these individuals who need them most. And so we are conducting this pre-pilot. We're looking to do it through BYU in the spring, summer next coming year in West Africa. And we're particularly going to be looking at, you know, how we can do this, getting data, doing analyses, and putting it into effect. So, no, it's good, Tiffany. That's good. So now,
cool.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm focusing on access points, and briefly, access points could be schools, homes, churches, with information communication technology, or ICT, allowing leapfrog development in low-tech, high-tech, and no-tech areas, youth-led village ambassadors, and government, NGOs, and families. So we'll cover all of those points in more detail. So this is an example of a low-tech or even no-tech community that uses information communication technology to leapfrog development. So this is a community center in Nepal, and they rigged it with a solar panel in order to have access to computers. And this enabled the community to reach all that information and curriculum. And it becomes a resource hub for families, for youth. And we're exploring with the Ballard Center. Our team is exploring with the Ballard Center for Social Innovation how to increase access to knowledge via access points. So on the left, you see a traditional community center, and there is sewing machines. And historically speaking, sewing machines are important to learn that skill in order to have business productivity later on. But now in Africa, secondhand clothes are pervasive and cheap and everywhere. So sewing machines aren't necessarily needed anymore. On the right, we see a church library, and there's paper and pencils and staplers. And how often do we go to a library and really check out a book? Mostly it's for computers, for Wi-Fi. And so the example of both of these things is that there's wasted space here, an opportunity to explore disruptive innovation opportunities that are both lower cost and ubiquitous. So replacing the sewing machines with computers, replacing the paper with ICT in order to increase the access to knowledge. We did a survey with our West Africa literacy facilitators, so people who are youth age per the UN category, and we had 128 responses, and remarkably, the majority of these individuals had a smartphone, 93%. And in addition, the #1 use of their smartphone or data was academic and education. So this proves that there is a facilitator population ready and willing to disseminate information and access it via ICT technology. These are a couple of the key highlights. So 97% of the facilitator population can use a Google account, and they have a Google Drive and can do so comfortably. 72% download, stream videos, content regularly on their phones. And 91% have access to reliable and proximal internet. Current access points of this population were family history ICT centers. And what we found is that no matter how far away this population lived, if they were motivated to attend 3 and up times a week, they would go. And so build it and they will come. And they are ready for ICT access to curriculum and knowledge. So leapfrogging with ICT in low tech areas. These are 3 iterations. ICT stands for Information Communication Technology. And then target audience. Okay, awesome. And what I mean by leapfrog is that a lot of times high-tech communities, we had to go all the way through the Industrial Revolution to have computers. But we can simply give these computers to developing countries so they don't have to go through the whole Industrial Revolution and reinvent the wheel. So that's leapfrogging developmental setbacks. So these 3 iterations are solar-powered literacy facilitator backpacks, family resource centers or a library upgrade, and a mobile literacy unit that can be a regional resource, so it can access many different communities and can even access those far-flung areas, which is a great benefit.
Okay, so the final pillar is facilitators, and another term that's used is knowledge brokers, because knowledge is disseminated through a lot of different formal and non-formal means. It does require that that person accessing the information is semi-literate, and and someone who knows the community. So usually it is a local person. It's often a family member who is the best facilitator. We have replicated the church's pattern for dialogue, for council-based discussion. It's also a very common and proven development tool. Discover, Plan, Act, Reflect, DPAR is the church's model that came out in November of last year. Elder Gong introduced it. And we've also been very focused on building communities of practice where the facilitators can be in touch with each other. So again, localization means one size does not fit all. And a central question we faced is, how do we localize for those we don't know? Often church headquarters has had localization happen in centers, not fringes, and in more urban areas, not rural. And as we are working with the Geneva Office of Human Rights through the church to try to reach non-LDS people, we need to involve non-LDS people in reaching them and working with locals to reach, these rural Islamic women who could benefit the most from content. So we've learned that locals know what locals need. And it seems trite, but ironically, a lot of times locals are not involved in that process of localization. We've also found that if it's youth-led and it's intergenerational, then it's more successful and it creates a longer-term cultural change. And one case study with Tanzila, who's the girl in the back in the kind of maroonish, darkish purple robe, she was the only person of her siblings who was able to go to school. And she's the oldest of 7, and her parents had never gone to school. And she became one of our facilitators. We worked with her and helped her identify ways to teach reading, writing skills around content that helps improve livelihoods and health. And she helped all of her siblings learn to read and write, including her mother. But in Pakistan, there's a barrier for men to be taught anything from their children culturally, or to learn anything from their wives. And this man was very humble, and apparently in the middle of the night, he rolled over to his wife and said, "Will you also teach me how to read?" And so the mother practiced with the father, unbeknownst to anyone else in the family or to anyone in the village. And once he was able to learn to read and write, he said that because my daughter taught my wife and my wife taught me, I am now a taxi driver. He was able to take the driver's license exam and be able to read and write to do so, which generated like 10 times more in income for their family. So these 3 pillars of content, access points, and facilitators is what we feel is a model that we could replicate as we partner with governments around the world to share this human rights education. And we're very open to participants, and we feel like it can scale a lot, especially because the LDS Church is interested not only to work through members, but through other institutions. So in summary, a few areas that we are open to involving anyone from the department there is, as we develop the pedagogy and the learning tools, we've learned that focusing on the why and the how is more important than the what. Over here, you see the Discover, Plan, Act, Reflect pedagogy launched by Elder Gong in November. And it's very focused on personal progress and personal change and project-based learning, experiential learning, redefining whose reality counts, and overcoming the gaps between rhetoric and reality. It's very personalized. It's anchored in deep learning. It's shorter feedback loops. And this open question method is definitely the way that Christ taught. We can see that he used the whole wide world as the fodder for content. And that's what we are doing with these materials. And we also prepared those who are learners, even if they're neo-literate, that they commit to becoming teachers as well. And we feel like there's a lot of ways that this could expand through existing For the Strength of Youth conferences, the YSA efforts, humanitarian EFY, and things like that. And finally, we are very interested to engage with people like you to map the culture of connectivity and to identify in this post-COVID world, how can we improve those connections from school to home, home to school, or from home to church and church to home. And, you know, essentially we've never had a better climate to learn these things. We need to get better at understanding these access points and bolstering the availability of the content, the affordable and innovative technologies, and then also the best ways to train people to use them and navigate power dynamics, cultural dynamics, where the youth defer to elders where needed and where elders are open to input from youth where needed also. We are also working to garner interest in a lower literate clearinghouse, given that over 50% of the members in our church are less than a 5th grade reading level. We're talking about curating content in simpler formats and less text heavy ways, because the majority of conference talks and content through the Gospel Library app is around a 12th grade to a 14th grade reading level. We're trying to better share resources across departments, expanding the use of the Circles app, which is like a WhatsApp kind of version. And in conclusion, we just want to reiterate that if youth are too underwhelmed in service and expectation, they are more likely to be overwhelmed by the world. We must do more to create and use soul-shaping experiences in the lives of our youth. Generously share your time, talent, resources with the rising generation. It's not only about youth, but we view youth as important mobilizers, and we're very excited to collaborate with you in trying to reach them. So I'm going to stop sharing and open it up. Do you have, like, can we talk for a little bit longer, or do we need to close up?
We have a few minutes. We can take some questions.
Okay, anybody?
Hi. I had a quick question. So I remember when we were showed the website, I forget what it was called, but the, I think, 4C1.
Open content for development, OC4D.
Yeah, it kind of had this Wikipedia-like feel to it.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that, and I was wondering, do you guys need any help with the development of that? Mainly because when I saw it, it was mainly just text, especially if you're talking about reaching lower level learners. And if they have a 5th grade literate level, that is really too much. Like, you need pictures, you need some other learning methods.
Yeah, there is a gallery, and we would love, Joseph, if you are interested,
Yes.
you're called to the work.
It was also interesting though, because those that access the site, they're going to be they're going to be the facilitators. That's kind of what we're getting at, right? If they're able to access it, they're able to read English and able to kind of be literate, right? Whereas those that we're targeting don't even know how to get there. So it's like,
and the idea is they incorporate, so the dialogue, the questions are key, and then they pull in their own, maybe it's a song from their culture, maybe it's a skit, maybe it's a video clip, maybe it's, you know, walk outside the classroom and sit down on the ground and you know, discuss what you see. So it's, we're setting it up in a way that could be very localized, and then we're inviting those who do localize to share back. And we do have a growing library of these tools with the pictures, and they definitely are picture heavy. But there was a desire to separate text from pictures because it was easier to download and easier to modify. So email me, Joseph.
Sure, can do. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Melissa Franklin is asking, are we partnering with other organizations? Yes, absolutely. This is, any knowledge worth knowing is worth sharing. And as we mentioned in the tree line and the grassroots partnerships, it's limitless who can participate. And we are aggregators. We're just trying to make it available. So any NGO, you know, any government leader, anyone you want to involve, or if you have content you want to share, we're very open. Okay, Taylor, are you raising your hand?
No, I'm just going to point out the question in the chat. I think was a little earlier. It's have you been working with pathways or self-reliance programs or anything like that?
Yeah, so this originated in the self-reliance department. Well, it's kind of had different homes over the last 20 years. But there's debate whether the pathway LMS is best for our efforts. And so there are several things that could still happen. And we were asked by the Literacy Working Group to start with our open content for development model and get this iterative feedback from the ground, so then we can better commit to the right LMS. But if that's up your alley and you want to help us doing your research, everything is fixed to scale quickly, you know, that we're supposed to deliver content to 25 million Filipinos in 2021. And the people who brought us in and asked them to help, you know, they aren't even thinking about the low bandwidth in a lot of those communities where they're trying to deliver content. So, you know, involving more people and connecting, best practices with realities on the ground will be really helpful. Thanks, Taylor.
All right, we will need to end at this point, and I know Tiffany has another commitment to get to as well. We're so grateful for her, so let's give her a round of applause and thank her for her
Thank you very much.
being with us.
Sorry for the glitches in the beginning. I had a new computer that we just set up last night, and I thought it would help, but it didn't. So
Tiffany,
sorry about that.
I say that, you know, technology just goes around the circle. You know, it points its finger at all of us eventually, and so all that happens is it just comes around the circle to the rest of us at some point. So we appreciate your perseverance and willingness to muscle through that just so you can share with us.
Thank you so much. And we would love, again, to collaborate with you. So share my information, if you will, Jason. And, you know, I think that your department, IPT, could ultimately be the clearinghouse for all of BYU. Because today, everything is IPT, right? Every department is wrestling with this. And particularly, I want to make a plug that international development is an arena where there's not enough people with IPT skills who commit to solving those issues. So would love, love, love your input.
Well, we appreciate your confidence and your friendship to our department, and we'll excuse seminar now.
Okay.
Let everyone get on to their next commitments, and it's good to be with you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.